The rocket time. Me and my girlfriend have been together for 3 years since we were 18. My girlfriend and father last night set me down to tell me they had a 2-year-long affair that ended a week ago. They'd been wanting to tell me since then but didn't have the hearts. I always knew they got on well, they bonded over many shared interests, but I never saw this coming. I feel completely sick. I haven't eaten hardly anything since they told me. I haven't officially broken up with her yet, but it is obvious as I haven't responded to any of the texts, calls she sent. When they first told me and after it had sunk in, I left and haven't said a word to anyone outside of work since. I've been a total ghost to my whole family and friend group. My dad and I are very close. For my whole life I have looked up to him. He and my mom divorced when I was a teenager, but they have been very friendly to each other, which made the process so much easier. I want to forgive my dad, but if my girlfriend had cheated on me with another person, I would easily cut them both off. And in a weird way my dad has hurt me so much more by doing this than she has. I could get over a cheating girlfriend. But my relationship with my father, a relationship I cherished, is destroyed. And it's his fault. My question is this: should I forgive my father? How can I forgive him? Should I tell my mom or brother? Would I be cruel for completely cutting him off, which is what my heart is telling me to do? I'm telling my family for sure. Their explanation was pretty much they screwed up. My dad and her basically bonded over time when I would be at work. She said that she just felt a connection with him. She said she had a fantasy of sleeping with an older guy, but she don't know she kept doing it. My dad then told me about the affair and how sorry he was. It just was basically she loved me and I should forgive her because she made a mistake but hates herself for it. She told me it was just a physical thing and that she wanted to fulfill her fantasy of sleeping with an older male teacher before we got married. I didn't respond to any of these messages or return her calls. She doesn't live with us. She just spends days at a time over here. I actually punched him up a bit and I will never apologize for it either. I'm surprised he didn't call the cops. I had to confront my father and my girlfriend about their betrayal. I knew that my decision would not only affect my relationship with them, but also with the rest of my family. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I took a deep breath and walked towards my father's house, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached the door, I hesitated for a moment, but mustered the courage to ring the doorbell. The door creaked open, revealing my father's somber face. He looked defeated, as though he was already expecting the worst. "Dad, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking. He nodded, and we moved to the living room. My girlfriend was already there, her eyes red and swollen from crying. I could feel the tension in the room, the air thick with anticipation. I started by yelling, unable to hold back the anger and hurt that had been building up inside me. "How could you do this to me? To us?" I demanded, my voice cracking. My father hung his head, unable to meet my gaze, while my girlfriend sobbed quietly. My dad tried to explain, saying, "Son, I'm so sorry. We never meant to hurt you. It just happened. I don't know how it started, but I couldn't stop it. I should have. I know I should have." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You couldn't stop it? What kind of excuse is that? You're my father. You're supposed to protect me, not betray me," I shouted, my anger reaching its peak. I couldn't hold back any longer, and I lunged at him, fists flying. He didn't fight back, taking the blows as though he believed he deserved them. My girlfriend tried to intervene, her voice pleading as she cried out, "Please, stop. It's not just his fault. I should have stopped it, too." But her words fell on deaf ears, as I continued to take out my anger and frustration on the man I once admired. Eventually, I pulled back, my hands shaking as I looked at my father's bruised and battered face. "Get out," I spat, my voice barely above a whisper. "Get out of this house and stay out of my life." My father nodded, his eyes filled with sadness and regret, and walked out the door. As the door slammed shut behind my father, I turned my attention to my girlfriend, the woman I had loved for 3 years, who had betrayed me in the most unimaginable way. I could feel the tears pricking at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them back, refusing to let her see my vulnerability. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Why did you do this to us?" She hesitated, her voice trembling as she said, "I don't know. I felt a connection with him. I had this fantasy of being with an older man, but I didn't know how to stop it once it started." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of disbelief and disgust. "You're unbelievable," I said, my voice cold and distant. "I loved you, and you threw it all away for a stupid fantasy." She reached out to touch my arm, tears streaming down her face, but I recoiled from her touch. "Please," she whispered, "please forgive me. I made a mistake, but I still love you." "I can't," I replied, my voice breaking. "I can't forgive you for this. You betrayed me, and you destroyed my relationship with my father. How can I trust you ever again?" She sobbed, her body shaking with each tear that fell. "I understand," she choked out. I just wanted you to know that I'm so sorry." As I stared at her, I realized that I couldn't be around her any longer. The pain was too raw, the hurt too deep. "You need to leave," I told her, my voice firm. "I don't want to see you again." Her face crumpled, but she nodded, gathering her things and walking towards the door. As she opened it, she paused, looking back at me one last time. "I'm sorry," she whispered, before closing the door behind her. You for this. You betrayed me, and you destroyed my relationship with my father. How can I trust you ever again?" She sobbed, her body shaking with each tear that fell. "I understand," she choked out. I just wanted you to know that I'm so sorry." As I stared at her, I realized that I couldn't be around her any longer. The pain was too raw, the hurt too deep. "You need to leave," I told her, my voice firm. "I don't want to see you again." Her face crumpled, but she nodded, gathering her things and walking towards the door. As she opened it, she paused, looking back at me one last time. "I'm sorry," she whispered, before closing the door behind her. In the days that followed, I felt numb. I had lost my father, my girlfriend, and my sense of trust in the people I loved. The pain was unbearable, and I couldn't bring myself to face my family or friends. I felt like a ghost, going through the motions of life without truly living. Eventually, I confided in my brother, sharing with him the devastating truth about our father and my now ex-girlfriend. He was shocked and appalled, offering his support and solidarity. He encouraged me to tell our mother as well, believing that she had a right to know about our father's betrayal. I hesitated, unsure of how to break the news to her. But my brother was right, she deserved to know. So, I gathered my courage and told her everything. She was devastated, her heart breaking not just for me, but also for the loss of the friendly relationship she had maintained with my father since their divorce. As time went on, I started to heal. I leaned on my family and friends for support, and slowly, the pain began to fade. I knew that I would never forget the betrayal, and my relationship with my father would never be the same. But I learned to let go of the anger and hurt, focusing on the people who truly loved and supported me. I never forgave my father, but I learned to accept what had happened. Our relationship was forever changed, but I refused to let his actions destroy me. I grew stronger, more resilient, and vowed to never let anyone hurt me like that again. My comment: "This is sick. There is something wrong with both of them. I don't know how you will recover from this, especially if you keep both of them in your life. Don't surround yourself with garbage people. They are disgusting. You sound like you are intelligent and capable of making wise decisions. Allow yourself to step out of that cloud of toxicity. Get counseling and salvage what's left of your self-esteem. Move on and don't look back. You are better off without them." Story 2. Here's our situation. Married 14 years, together 16, with 2 kids. He works, I work. I lost it last spring. I had a moment in a workshop I was doing where everything came crashing down and where I hadn't cried or really felt much emotion at all in the past 3 to 4 years. I guess some might call it a breakdown. In this workshop, someone gave me a gift. It was a small gift, but it was something that I really liked, and this triggered me. I realized that I couldn't remember the last time someone gave me something that was important to me, that someone had taken the time to think about what I needed. I realized that I'd been living in this world of giving and supporting but never receiving. I felt like I was carrying the whole world on my shoulders, and I felt like my husband was one more burden to carry. I felt like I was done. I felt like I was suffocating, and if I didn't get out, I was going to end. I realized that I felt completely trapped in my marriage and my life. I was exhausted. My husband had been off of work for 2 years, and while I was happy to see him take a break at first, going into the second year I began to get frustrated that he was not doing anything to support our family, and left the burden on me completely. He was not motivated to look for work or even think outside of the box at possibilities, like looking in other cities for work, etc. I had told him I was willing to relocate and start up a new business in a new city, but he wouldn't even consider it. I mentioned to him that sometimes when we are in a rut, we need to physically move or change our patterns to see things from a new perspective, but he was not interested in any change at all. I wanted desperately to get out. I got more and more frustrated. Finally, I told him I wanted to separate. It hit him like a ton of bricks. He had no idea, he says. We had slept together maybe 3 times in the last 2 years, and usually because I felt guilty and would give in or initiate, thinking maybe it would make things better. But generally, he'd go to bed stating he was tired, leave me to put the kids to bed, and I'd stay up late avoiding him, out of anger that I'd had to put the kids to bed on my own. That's how we lived the last 3 to 4 years, I'd say. He asked me to go for therapy with him. I told him I'd only go if he found himself a therapist so he could work on himself as well. So, we went to 1 session. We agreed to give ourselves a year. Since then, I've been working with a therapist and he with his, and we now have couples sessions every 2 weeks as well. I don't feel like we are getting anywhere fast. The therapy has really helped to teach us to communicate better. Basically, I think most things have been said to each other and we are communicating honestly now, which is really great. His relationship with our kids has greatly improved now that he is present in the room with them, not just physically, but actually present most of the time. Though I am still the one who does all the parenting, in terms of teaching our kids values and ethics, etc., he supports whatever I say. So, here's where I am at. I feel now like I have a really great helper in my husband. He is trying very hard, supportive of everything I do, but he is not a partner. I feel like I have a really great employee. What I want is a partner. He seems confused when I tell him this. I wish he'd step up to the plate, form an opinion about something, not just help all the time. I wish he'd take the initiative sometimes. So, I'm back to where I was last spring, feeling like we are walking on divergent paths. We just don't seem to get each other at all. So, I feel like we are heading towards separation, because my heart doesn't feel anything when I am around him. I care for him as a person and a friend, but not as a partner and a husband, lover. Maybe my lack of patience, but frankly after so long, it's hard to have patience. I have to keep reminding myself that he had no idea until a few months ago and he's trying to catch up. He acknowledges that he is afraid to make decisions because he fears they will be the wrong ones and has an issue with stepping up and having a backbone or an opinion about everything, so he defers to me, which is frankly exhausting. But I also acknowledge that for years I played that role and thought it was the only way it would work, since he never stepped up, never planned dates, never had his own opinion, never took the initiative on anything whatsoever. So, I stepped into that, playing father and mother and letting him take a back seat. So, I am to blame too here. I get that. Now that I'm stepping back, he doesn't know how to step in. To foster our love, while we are writing appreciations to each other every day, that is helping a little bit. I have told him repeatedly that what would mean something to me would be if he would plan a date, or something for us, where I didn't have to organize everything. But he has yet to do it, stating he doesn't know why he doesn't do it. On my side, I have begun dressing more femininely, etc. One of the other big issues for me, which plays into the fact that I don't feel he's a partner, is that though he is quite a social person and I am the introvert, he relies completely on my friends and colleagues for his social interaction. He doesn't have friends. He never goes out with his buddies or invites them over. Whenever we socialize, it's with my colleagues and friends. That has gotten tedious for me, and though I ask him to do this, he is not doing it. I find it frustrating to get into bed with a man that I don't want to be besides, and to be completely honest, would prefer to have my own room and my own space. Then of course I feel guilty for not trying hard enough, but wondering how you can fall back in love with someone when you have gone so far down the road of resentment and anger. Honestly, I wonder why I would live in a marriage like this. We can be happy people and good parents and not live together. We can then perhaps find people who suit our personalities, where we are not trying so hard to be the person that the other needs us to be. My therapist asked me the same, because I was telling her I felt ambivalent. When she asked me to really connect with how I feel, I was not ambivalent. I was checked out. My mind keeps bringing me back to maybe I didn't try hard enough. It's my perfectionist attitude, I guess, of always feeling like I should give it my best shot. But honestly, sometimes you just have to give yourself permission to let go. Part of it for me is not fully trusting how I feel or giving myself to feel what I feel. From the outside, people think my H is wonderful, and maybe I'm afraid of being judged for leaving such a great man. I also feel like I am abandoning him, and I need to get over the fact that it's not my job to take care of him, though I feel I have been doing so for a long time. He's not my child, he's my husband. He's a grown person like me. I guess my other worry is dealing with the sadness my children will experience. While I know long-term it will be better for them, I guess because I am feeling so exhausted and worn out, I wonder if I have the energy to deal with it. But I will likely have more energy once I get out of this. My H and I have been really honest with each other lately. Brutally honest, and it has been helpful. I think in all of this it really helps to let go of the idea of holding on to the marriage. The marriage is an object. I think many marriages end up in a weird codependent place where we lose ourselves in it. So, letting go of this idea that we have to stick together is really healthy. I think we need to really figure out who the hell we are after all of these years of supporting each other, and know who we are, and then decide if we want to be together. I mean, what is so tragic about taking different paths? Really, if we let go of what other people think, etc., if we can't be honest with each other and have open communication, then we can't have a good marriage. Lots of people stay together, but not a lot are happy. I don't know very many people who are happy in their marriages. I never felt it fair to threaten with divorce, so I waited until I actually wanted a divorce. I was clear that it wasn't an ultimatum. I was just done being a parent to my spouse. Not that I'm perfect, that is absolutely not the case. We both created this dysfunction. I enabled his passivity by taking more and more on, and as a result losing myself completely. He seems to be trying very hard, but he has a long way to go now, and I'm not sure I can wait for however many years it takes him to start feeling emotions after spending 40-odd years sucking them in. I didn't realize when I met him how emotionless he was. Though I did used to ask him what he was thinking, or say things like "we never seem to talk," to which he would reply, "What do you mean? We talk all the time." One thing I've learned is that we are all attracted to our partners for reasons which link back to what was missing in our childhoods. And if we outgrow that or move past it, then oftentimes the relationship seems to dwindle. Yes, I agree we don't learn how to express ourselves properly, and who of us grew up in a functional family? Not many. In terms of knowing how he feels, it is very hard to have a conversation with someone who always says everything is fine but cannot drill down any deeper. He puts the needs of others always above his own. I have learned through MC that he does this because he doesn't want to burden anyone with his issues. But the result is you never really know who he is. He knows this now and acknowledges it as a weakness, but is not willing or able to move past it. This issue also seems to spread to having opinions. He doesn't have a lot of strong opinions or values. Well, I'm sure he does, but doesn't share them. So, I feel like he's a feather in the wind. I can blow him this way and that way, and he'll go whichever way I ask him to. In MC, if I am expressing something which really made me sad, he sits there like drone, and she says, "How do you feel hearing this?" His reply is usually, "Well, I think it's very interesting that she said that," and goes on to talk about everything that is interesting about what I said. He remains completely composed the whole time. I know he has all kinds of things stewing underneath, and hence why he is so afraid of confrontation and doesn't want to acknowledge how he really feels about anything. He externalizes everything. I think what I am looking for is a little humanity. Anything like, "Wow, I'm sad that you feel that way," or "I'm frustrated that you would think that about me," or anything. I can say that he is earning some of my respect lately in the fact that he didn't just walk away, or let me walk away, that he wanted to work it out, and was willing to go for counseling. To me, that is sign of an open heart and a strong person. He has no idea what he's walking into by going to therapy and is still willing to try. Even if I find his progress too slow, I can appreciate and respect him for doing it. Many people are far too afraid to scratch the surface of their issues to even go there. I don't know if the slope is too slippery. I realize that I don't know him at all, so it's hard to say. At the moment, I don't hold much hope for us staying together because his progress has been so slow the past 6 months, and I don't know how long I am willing to wait. But in the meantime, I have also learned that I can't move forward with anger and resentment. I need to take responsibility for my part in this, for my enabling this behavior in him that I don't like, which in turn makes me resentful and feeling like I am taking on everything, being both parents, and ultimately makes me feel very lonely. That is my story and my problem to resolve, not his. I don't worry about letting down the kids. I know that will not happen. I know H is committed to them and I am as well. I think I feel guilty about doing something for me, when this little nuclear family could just go along quite well if I just stopped being such a brat. I feel like the only thing which doesn't work in this family is my relationship to my H, and so in a way I feel guilty for wanting more out of life and out of a partner. Sometimes we think we want something different, but when we get it, it comes with all kinds of other issues or triggers. That is why I am trying to stick in there. I want to make sure I'm not just looking for something different but the same. Sometimes we really can't see through all the crap to see what is also good in what we have. You want more alpha, then you will have to deal with people being attracted to your spouse, and then in turn perhaps learning a new level of trust you didn't have to learn before when you saw your H as passive. I also want to learn to change myself in the way I communicate, because I don't want to walk out of one dysfunctional relationship and head right into the same relationship again with a different guy. Had a bad day yesterday. Sat down and tried to have some really directed conversation about things, and they basically went nowhere. I am starting to think that H is passive-aggressive. He won't openly say yes, I want to do that, or no, I don't want that. Our conversations feel like me pulling teeth, or me telling him how I feel, and he is looking at me like I'm from Mars. No emotion ever seems to come out of him at all, and he tries to fix my problems. These conversations seem to drive us farther apart, and I can only dream of being on my own. I'm so tired of trying to make this work. It seems the more I begin to connect with who I really am, the more it drives us apart. Maybe that is why I neatly tucked myself into the drawer for so long. It makes me sad to think how the kids will react, and I can't even wrap my head around the logistics of moving out. Finding an affordable place. Today I'm feeling pretty hopeless. I've taken it upon myself to really nurture my needs. So things I haven't done in a while, I need to start again. So, I'm doing more exercise, which feels great, and signed up for a class I want to take. I am starting to feel really good when I'm alone, but when he gets home, I find it really hard. I guess maybe it takes time. I don't know, though I'm feeling better personally, like I'm not waiting for him to move my life forward. Now I kind of feel like I'm leaving him in the dust. Doing all the things I want to do, and realizing we have little in common, which seems exacerbate my frustration or sadness. I am wondering if that is why I tucked myself neatly away for so many years, because I feared if I truly was myself and pursued living how I want to live, that it would not include him. He seems happy to live a humdrum life, work, come home, work, come home. I am realizing that what makes him happy is exactly what makes me anxious and depressed, and perhaps the other way around. I thrive on possibility, innovation, experience, and he seems to thrive on comfort, stability, and reassurance, but seems intrigued and interested in the other side of the coin, only not willing to act on it. I guess that's what's kept me here so long. I feel like he continues to talk the talk of being a bit adventurous, but that's all it is, talk. I think I'm scared that this is the end, that we really are two different people on two different paths. And though I like the comfort of having a partner, I realize that I feel really crappy in this relationship most of the time. Not sure how to move forward with this. I guess for now my plan is to continue working on finding my own path, and if he is part of it, then okay. I want to get to the place where I can either walk in or walk out of the relationship from a place of peace and clarity. Is it actually possible? Still stuck in limbo, but things are starting to become clearer. We took a trip away with another family, which in many ways was nice, but it became really clear to me anyhow that we are not a couple. In our last therapy session together, the therapist said we weren't getting anywhere really. What is becoming clear to me is that it's not about the little things that he does or does not do, as he's picked up a lot of the slack in that area. Nonetheless, we are still not a couple. It seems to me he is totally confused on what that means to me, and I think that he is content with the type of relationship we have, and I am not. So, it's becoming pretty clear to me that this relationship has simply come to an end. I love him as a person, he's a lovely man, but my needs are not met by him, and that is okay. There are other things at play here, fundamental ways we want to live our lives which are so diametrically opposed that I don't think the two can meet ever. So that's where I'm at right now. I think he has given up as well, though perhaps I am misreading this. We don't talk anymore about the relationship. We just coexist in a friendly manner. I don't know how he feels about it, and frankly I'm exhausted from trying and asking. So, I am starting to get excited about creating a new life. An update. Our MC was going nowhere. Our MC basically told us not to come anymore because he was always checking in with the same story. I need to take initiative and I'm not doing it. Not sure why. My counseling has been focusing on what can I do to make my life better, what are the things I can focus on to be the person I want to be. So, I've been focusing on that, really communicating clearly what I want, not doing things out of agency, taking care of myself instead of everyone else all the time. It's been a struggle at times to acknowledge what I want and say it out loud, but I feel like I'm making progress. Our relationship, on the other hand, isn't. Part of my individual work has been to stop initiating everything all the time. When people in my age drop the ball, I always pick it up and run with it. So, I have been stepping back from this to create space for him to pick up the ball. He doesn't and hasn't. We have gone 3 months now without talking about anything other than life, logistics, kids, etc. Finally, today I sent him an email and said that we've regressed back to old habits of just getting through the day and that I am done. His reply was that he could not believe that I would be willing to just let it all go without trying to learn to communicate. It feels at this point that I am just delaying the inevitable. It's been a year since I had the I'm done conversation with him. I have been working hard to change my patterns, etc., but still, nothing has changed. We don't talk, we don't touch, and if I don't initiate conversation, time together, it doesn't happen. He sure can talk a good talk though. He talks about how in order to strengthen relationship we need to show vulnerability and communicate. Seems so odd to me that someone can get this intellectually and be completely paralyzed when it comes to trying to actually do it. Last few months he's been throwing money at me, buying expensive gifts, and then is angry when I don't show huge appreciation for them. I don't care about gifts and money. 3 years later, we have been separated for 6 months. We both talked about being amicable and working this out with the least amount of cost possible. He mentioned that he didn't want to go lawyers right away because we could do a lot of the grunt work ourselves, i.e., compiling lists of assets, expenditures. So we don't pay a lawyer to do this. I agreed. I have done a spreadsheet, gone to my lawyer, and he has had me complete a financial declaration. Back in June H said he'd have it done in a week. I keep asking him and he keeps ignoring my emails, or he replies with a quick "I'll work on it this week." Then nothing. I finally broke down and went to my lawyer last week to ask him if there was any way to push him to get this done, and he says the only thing we can do is file. Like filing the initial paperwork, which is the same paperwork we file if we are divorcing. But where I live, you have to be physically separated for 1 year to file for divorce. Anyhow, if he files this initial document, H will have to follow a timeline for submitting his documents. I keep emailing him and asking him to please provide the documentation, but he simply doesn't and keeps blowing me off. He's told me in the past that it's very emotional, and this is why he can't cope with doing this. However, he's living in the family home, so he also has no incentive to get this moving because it will either mean he has to remortgage the house so he can pay me out, or it will mean selling the house. In the meantime, I'm living in a tiny flat compared to our house, and it's getting pretty tight when the girls come over with the dog. Have any of you had success with any kind of communication which worked in this scenario other than going the lawyer route? I thought I'd give him one last chance. The lawyer says that filing the paperwork is not an extra cost if you plan on divorcing because it's the same paperwork needed for that. However, what it does is puts it in the legal system and forces the other party to comply with timelines. So, it sounds like it might be the only way to go. My comment: sometimes the love isn't there anymore and you become roommates. It is up to you to decide what is best for you in the near future and start working from there.